Hello everyone! Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's the first regular episode of Weekly Manga Recap for the new year of 2025. We of course did our annual manga recap last week, but we got a lot of recent manga to talk about today. Yes. A lot! So look forward to that, everybody.
Yeah.
Quinn, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know what I watched recently, Nick, for the first time?
No.
Spirited Away.
Really?
I had never seen it as a kid. I just never...
I guess that makes sense. That was before your movie watching era, certainly.
Yes, 100%. That was definitely in a period where I was like, there are no magic swords or superpowers in this. I had both, I believe, actually, by the way. I just not in the way my brain had been programmed at that point to think. But I just ignored it. And then I watched it and sobbed like a child for... essentially about an hour and a half. So, super excited to continue watching some of the Ghibli movies I missed and just watch them destroy me one by one. See what remains after the psychic damage is complete.
There's a lot of very emotional ones, definitely. Are there ones that are like kind of the older ones that are like kind of on your list to go through?
So I have 3 right now that are at the top of my list. These are like the 3 that I'm going to try to prioritize. Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, and then The Howl's Moving Castle. Those 3 are the ones I'm kind of looking at.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have never given a second shot to Kiki's Delivery Service because I hated it so much.
Oh wow! I've been hearing mostly really good things about Kiki's Delivery Service. That's what I'm really excited about.
Now that I'm at the age where I'm at, where I can accept that maybe my mind can change on certain things, I look back and I realize like I was a teenager when I saw that, and maybe I was bored by nothing happening.
Yeah,
like my favorite Ghibli film is Whisper of the Heart, where it can also be argued that nothing happens. So
I don't think I've heard Whisper of the Heart before. Is that like an older one or a newer one?
It was like mid-90s. It was not a Miyazaki film. The director like tragically passed not long after making it, so it was like his only like full film that he got to direct. And it's not one of like the ones that's like, super popular and well known. I think partially because it's like, well, it's not a Miyazaki directed one, so it's like, but it's really, really good. I like it immensely. And it features possibly the perfect song in existence, which is Country Roads. So,
ooh, Ninja is like echoing you in the chat, by the way. So people in the chat are asking which ones I have and haven't seen. So at this point, I have seen obviously now Spirited Away. I saw Boy and the Heron. We watched Ponyo, and I always forget this until I look at it. I'm like, we also watched Grave of the Fireflies together during comedy month, where we just talked about N64 games and other stuff instead. And
just completely ignored what was happening, and it's like, I don't know what was so heartbreaking about that guy.
Yeah, guys, that seemed like a pretty easy movie to get through. I actually had some pretty good laughs during it, so I don't know why you guys are having a big tough time with this one. And fuck, there's one other one I know I've seen, and I'm blanking on it. I don't know, but I still have a bunch to see.
Yeah, I've seen Mononoke. I've seen Nausicaa.
Mononoke, that was it. That was the other one.
I've seen Castle in the Sky, which I really like. And I've also seen Ponyo. And with Ponyo, it's just like really weird because I just remember the Disney dub. How it's just that small child. And then let's have Liam Neeson in this.
Gosh, was he in that? Was that the only reason I wanted to watch
Ponyo?
Ponyo?
He's the wizard in it.
so mortified at the movies I watched, and I'm like, why did I watch this? And I looked up like the cast list, and I'm like, oh, because Steve Buscemi was in it, or because Liam Neeson. That's almost always the answer to. Is like Liam Neeson was in it for like 7. Like, why did I watch The Nut Job? I'm like, oh, because Liam Neeson played the bad guy squirrel.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate myself sometimes.
We do have a lot to talk about today, so I guess I'll cut that short instead of going on about, because I could talk about some of Nicole's actor kicks, why she's seen certain films.
We'll save that for later. We'll save that for a bonus podcast where we just delve through our movie histories. In the meantime, Nick, let's start off with not the final chapter of Undead Unluck, but it's got to be really close. Oh, right. Holy shit. Oh, my God. We have so much to talk about.
Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It's the latest edition of Pokemon Adventures that we went through. This rejoins us with the protagonists of the third generation of games, Ruby and Sapphire, and Emerald is there too. And he's not nearly as bad in this version, in my opinion.
That's because he doesn't talk really. So that's pretty. Bless up for that.
Yeah. This is, I guess, because I did not play this version of the games because it's based on Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the re-release of the games that came out in the mid-2010s, and especially based on a special, like, extra story that they put into that edition of the game that heavily revolved around Rayquaza called the Delta episode, which features a new character called Zinnia. And in short, this story is about a meteorite is going to strike the Earth and kill everyone. And so we've got to stop it with the power of Pokemon.
Yes.
So Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald are all involved in this. Their Team Magma and Team Aqua also show up, and then there is Zinnia leading this new faction of people called like the Draconoids, I think that they're called. Whatever.
Yeah,
Dragon people.
Something very similar.
And it's only 20 chapters long, but it ran like irregularly. And I looked this up. Very strange. It was actually running concurrently with X and Y, the last arc that we covered. Because I saw something at some point that said, like, man, it really sucked that they had to like publish 2 stories at once. And I looked into it, and yeah, they were being published at the same time, I guess on like off weeks or something like that. So this kind of got the lower priority, I would guess. And at points, it does definitely show that it was the lower priority. But I would say that if you read only the last volume of this 3-volume series and imagined the other 2, you would think that this ruled.
Potentially. So this is one of those ones where I'm like, I don't know where to begin. And I'm like, Quinn, who gives a shit? It's the tie-in manga to a remake of a movie of like one you've already talked about. Like, no one gives a shit. We're playing with house money at this point.
Yeah.
Like, we got to start doing mangas of the remake. So there is not a tremendously deep plot to this, as you mentioned. There's a meteor coming. They have to deal with it. It loosely is trying to follow... I don't even want to say they're trying to follow the plot of Delta episode. They are trying to follow the plot beats that Delta episode had, where it's like, Rayquaza is important. There are primal forms for the 3 Hoenn legendary creatures. Xenia exists. Credits, basically. Like they just kind of like smashed like more logic to actually make the pieces function together. Now, whether they are successful at doing that in a compelling way is perhaps a different matter altogether. But if you liked Ruby and Sapphire and you could tolerate Emerald, you'll probably like this one. It's a lot of the same. You just don't get to enjoy the parts of it that are great as much because they're like, hold on, we have to explain that Pikachus could have different costumes in this game.
Yeah.
So we need to explain that element. You have to understand Beedrill got a Mega Evolution, so Beedrill
Red
needs to
and
show.
Blue and Giovanni are here. They do nothing, but they have Pokemon that have Mega Evolutions, so they have to be here.
The Beedrill one is very funny because like there's supposed to be a very intense moment where somebody sees Giovanni and they're like I'm gonna jump on him, and he like sends out a Beedrill and they're like, oh shit, that guy's got a killer instinct. And never once did I question like, why the fuck does Giovanni have a Beedrill? It's not a ground type. I guess it's a poison type. He kind of sub-poison, I guess. Doesn't really kind of fit. I don't remember a lot of Beedrills in Team Rocket, whatever. And then I'm like, oh right, it had a Mega Evolution in that game.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. There's no Mega Dugtrio or Mega Nidoking or Nidoqueen or Mega Rhydon or none of those. So, Mega Beedrill.
Yeah.
There you go. And it's really weird. There are some plot choices that I question because the story is bound and determined to follow Ruby and only Ruby through much of its run. So he is told by the organization that is trying to stop the meteorite from hitting the Earth, the Devon Corporation. They're like, okay, there's a meteorite that's going to come and impact the Earth and kill everyone unless we stop it. So we need your guys' help because, you guys are the Pokedex holders, these, trainers who have this great reputation and stuff. And also, all of you have the starter Pokemon that Mega Evolve and teach the final move and everything like that. So we need your Pokemon to power our rocket ship to go and to stop the meteorite. Stop it.
To be clear, they don't even give that information to the characters either.
No.
I think the characters also are just told, like, you got to help us. And they're like, sure thing, boss. And they never ask really more questions than that.
So Ruby and Emerald are told this at the same time. And Ruby's like, oh my god, a meteorite is going to hit the Earth. Please don't tell Sapphire. And they're like, okay, we will not tell her. Because he is worried about what it will do to her psyche or something like that.
He is concerned, and to be fair, he is concerned about all of his loved ones. There's a point later on where he's like, I wish I could talk to somebody about this, but everyone I would talk to, I would just end up instilling panic on them. Like, what if you ignorantly were the only one who knew the world was going to end in a week, and you're like, do I tell people and let them live their last days in a panic or not? It doesn't matter because halfway through it, the world finds out and nothing happens. It results in absolutely nothing. So yeah, should just tell somebody.
So Sapphire's just mad at him for not telling her, and also no one else told her either. And it results in her being so impacted by this that she loses her voice. Like losing your voice because of stressful incidents is a thing that happens to people. It's an odd decision in this particular case because, I mean, she has to do a lot of stuff where she communicates non-verbally with people for a bit, but it's not really a focus. So it's an odd decision to have it happen.
It's not very dramatically satisfying because everyone encounters it and they're like, she can't talk. Well, anyways, I get the idea of what you're saying. And
right.
Like, really, the only adorable thing is that out of it, we get to see sometimes Sapphire has to write messages. And because she's supposed to be like the wild child, it's like there'll be like backwards S's and like words she adds in after the fact and stuff like that. It's kind of funny.
Right. So that all happens. Meanwhile, the Zinnia's people are trying to stop the Devon Corporation because they're like, well, what your plan is to send a rocket ship up and open a portal that'll teleport the meteoroid somewhere else. And what'll happen if you do that? Will it go to another planet like ours where there is life? And she eventually has a chance to like confront the leaders of the corporation and be like, you lack imagination, essentially. You are so close-minded in terms of what this could do because you think that your science is superior and you know everything. She is instead trying to fulfill this ancient legend that her people have about how to stop the meteoroid that involves Rayquaza. She is on a quest to gather all the Make Mega Evolution item things happen so that she can go to Rayquaza and basically, convince him to work with her to Mega Evolve and stop the meteoroid. The problem is that the chosen one among her people that was to do this, the Lore Keeper, was someone from her past who is dead now. They never say that because it's Pokemon, but they're dead. Like, so they're not around to do this, and so she is like stepped up to take their place. And so she's like, so that's the problem that she's got to deal with. Meanwhile, Magma and Aqua teams are working together to try and get Kyogre and Groudon, to get them and to unlock their primordial forms, their Mega Evolution forms, so that they have ultra super kaiju powers, so that they can blow up the meteoroid when it comes to Earth. So there's 3 different plans going on, all to stop the meteoroid, but they're also all in conflict with each other for different reasons.
Sure. Well, Xenia's plan really more functionally is like, I need to fuck over this guy's plan so that I can do my plan. So she is the one who's constantly interfering with the first one, which eventually they do bring up a very good reason for why she does it. She's just like, you guys don't know where that goes. What if you're just dooming another Earth? Like, for all we know. So I thought that was decent. But yeah, these things work against each other, and some of the plans are better than others. I really...
We'll just shoot fireballs at it and it'll work.
I really admire that this series, and this is the thing that's very special about the Pokemon Adventure manga, is it tries really hard to explain all the weird different things the Pokemon games just do. And perhaps my favorite is the fact that when they remade Alpha Sapphire, they changed the designs of several of the antagonists. And
love what they did for this.
There is a moment when the new admins of Team Aqua and Team Magma show up, and they're just a collective now. They show up together. They rock with each other now. They show up and they're like, I'm Tabitha, I'm Matt. They all, give their names. And I think it's Sapphire's like, wait, those aren't the ones I remember. And the character's like, are you confused? Perhaps it's because you don't realize names in our organizations are actually titles inherited by successors. Like,
code names, Matt.
There must always be a Courtney in our organization, or Team Magma will cease to function. And they do.
And I will admit, I knew that the redesigns were coming, so I was like, I wonder how they're going to address the fact that everyone in Team Aqua looks vastly different. And they did!
Especially when they address earlier on in the manga how Courtney used to look. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess she did look like that. I just didn't process because I don't think of those details as much. And then once they showed up, I was like, yeah, what are they going to do about this? I had my answer.
Yeah.
There's like multiple Matts in Team Aqua's history. Each,
apparently,
maybe just as important as the last. Who knows? And
if any of them have like a Kenpachi thing that goes on where you have to kill the previous owner of the title of Matt.
you gotta kill the last Tabitha if you want to become them. So perhaps the most interesting part of all that, though, is for a while we've seen Maxie and Archie. They're just in the manga. And characters are like, wait, who are they? And I thought this was meant to be the thing that like these two also took on the name of their predecessor. They are different people, but it's still, Maxie and Archie. No, these are the original Maxie and Archie. When they absorbed themselves into the legendary Pokemon before, they were sent to a distortion world where their bodies broke down into molecular elements and sort of combined and fused. But then as a result of the, Diamond and Pearl manga, the distortion world opened up briefly, and they were called to by kind of like the Earth and Pokemon, and they came out revitalized in new physical forms that are different, with the sole purpose of trying to destroy this meteorite in a plan that will not work. It is kind of doomed from the onset. And they do it, and that's all that they do, and then their bodies break down, they die. It's actually kind of a poignant scene. Like, it's kind of a little sad, but you're just like, didn't need this explanation. There are so many other ways you could say Archie and Max were back. I didn't need this.
Absolutely. It was a very weird thing, but I did appreciate how they were very romantic with each other by this point. A couple of notes I want to make, because we do have a lot of manga and I don't have a lot of overall thoughts and everything. Zinnia has a Salamence, which is the Salamence that scarred Ruby, which was a nice way of tying her in its backstory. That incident also happened while she was like messing up the Devon Corporation, which was a nice extra touch. Ruby basically almost straight up romantically confesses to Sapphire in this. Like, there is if you were someone who read the first set of manga with these two and you shipped them hard, they really do run
pretty much confirmed. Yeah.
There's a very satisfying conclusion where the two of them go to space with Mega Rayquaza and they're holding hands while watching the stars fly by. And the reason that they go up together is because Ruby knows he's got to do it. Because Zinnia tries to go to Rayquaza and say like, "Hey, work with me," and Rayquaza's like, "No," gores her in the stomach with his tail and then blasts her with his breath weapon.
It is wild how many people take straight on laser blasts to the face. Like, how many humans take full on like hyper beams to the noggin and then get back up afterwards. I was like, dang, they killed Zinnia. And they were like, nah, she just got fucking impaled really, really hard, but she's okay.
She's just got an achy in her tummy, so she can't go to space right now, guys.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, like, Ruby says to Sapphire, "Look, I think I might die, and if I'm gonna die, I want to spend my last moments with you." And they go to space together to save the world on what they think might be a kamikaze mission. But then Rayquaza's like, "No, you guys are cool," and pushes them back to Earth after saving the day from the meteoroid, which was secretly Deoxys for some reason.
That's the part I don't get. I was like, is this a reference to something? Like, I was like, did Deoxys get like a new form in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? And they're like, we gotta get that in there.
They reference like the stuff that happened in Fire Red and Leaf Green when, Giovanni was fucking with him, and that's why Giovanni is there, is to go like, so it was you this whole time.
Is it? I played Delta episode. I just do not remember this whatsoever. Crazy.
I mean, I think that might be a detail from the manga. And Emerald is kind of the best version of him, which is a guy who's just kind of there, doesn't do a whole lot, but he does tell everyone at the end, "You guys are being stupid, just work together instead of having plans that sabotage each other, which will cause the Earth to be destroyed." And so he only needed the one moment, he got it, he stayed out of the way for the rest of it. If, like I said before, if this fairly short manga, only 3 volumes, had just been the last volume, I would think that this is one of the best that Pokemon Adventures has had. A lot of nice emotional beats at the end, some cool action that happens, a satisfying climax. The build to get there is just it's stuff that needs to happen because we're referencing stuff from the games, and there needs to be a build-up. For what it was, I thought it was a fine one. Addition to this.
Sure, yeah. As you said, we have a bunch of series, so I won't linger too much on it. I'll say I was a little disappointed in how Sapphire was kind of treated in a lot of the series. She gets like cool moments to shine, but she is kind of backseated for a lot of it, and her like showdown with Zinnia kind of happens, it feels like, off screen. They at one point fight on a launching rocket ship, and I was like, well, this is going to be the most metal thing this manga does. And then it like very quickly ended that situation in a way that I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's all we're doing there. So I was a little bummed by that. And then I think there are just way too many characters in this. It's, just too many people to keep track of, too many plot beats to focus on. I don't know why Hoopla had to be there, but
or like all the old generation of people like Drake and all of them. Absolutely.
So a couple unfortunate things there, but by and large, it's still fun. I would probably rather read this manga again than play the Delta episode again. Though if I played Omega Ruby again, I guess I would just shits and giggles be like, all right, fire it up. Like, it's on the disc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's do Undead Unluck.
I don't really want to anymore. Let's talk about change.
All right.
Let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is number 237. Game cleared. So, They won! They won against God.
Yeah.
Soul is actually defeated from that. Sun, all of them, they seem to be down. And there's an enormous kind of energy blast as Luna shows up and says, "Game results, the avoidance of Ragnarok, successful. I will now present the award." But Fuko notes, like, oh wait, she's fading away. The first reward is the complete eradication of UMAs. And a bunch of beams fly out. And she says, all of the UMAs within Sun will simply now exist as laws of the world. And one of these beams hit Clothy. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess I'm a UMA too. So Andy is very quick to be like, yeah, just, thanks for everything you did, buddy. And he's like, hey, I was just carrying out what I do, keeping people covered, And
Just preventing nudity.
yeah, he really is just kind of a cool chum guy. He's like, guess it was pretty weird of me to team up with the people trying to eradicate me, but I never wanted to see a dick, so, I kept people from seeing it too. And he's disappearing, but Fuko is crying at this point. And Clothy's just like, what's a human doing crying over a UMA? It ain't like clothes are going anywhere. Lady Luna said it itself, didn't she? I'll remain a law. And Andy, thanks for continuing to wear me. This is a reward from me to you. I hope the both of you weave the most wicked happiness. And Clothy, before he disappears, gives a union wedding dress to Fuko and Andy.
Oh, I didn't even realize it has the union symbol on it.
Yeah, it's got the union logo on the chest bodice. So Andy kind of mutters like, you're damn wicked yourself, partner. And then the second reward happens, and immediately Kuno shows up, Ano-un. And he's like, huh? You talking to me? Oh my god! And we get a full page spread as they're like the extinguishment of negation abilities. And we have so many things I won't spend a ton of time, but I do want to say two extremely cute notes. Ichiko immediately goes to sleep. She's immediately like, nap time, don't care. And Yusai is just stabbing her sword into the ground over and over again and being like, yeah!
I have no idea why Bunny's in the foreground of this shot, but there she is, right there, up front and center. Look, I'm out of my bunny costume.
Yeah, I guess because they were like, well, we weren't really going to explain, I guess, the tragedy of Bunny always being stuck in a bunny costume unless we do this. So that was our one shot. A bunch of characters interact with how their powers go. Shen is immediately to Mui like, Mui, do you like me? And she's like, oh yes, I like you very much. And he's like, truth is gone. Aww. And Sean is immediately like, oh my gosh, quick, Chikara, snap a picture of me, even though his eyes are closed and everything like that. And there's a ton of little cute moments. I like one where Creed just shouts out, he's like, guys, Phil just smiled. It's very cute. But Fuko and Andy have this moment where she's like, what a relief. Now you can die anytime you want. And he's like, yeah, and now you can touch people whenever you want. And the third reward starts to activate and heart starts to glow. And Fuko looks at Andy and says, Andy, I know you well enough to know that nothing I say will stop you. And I know this might torment you. But I want to wear that dress the way I am right now. And Andy says, yeah, no worries. Leave it to me. The loss of all artifacts happens, heart explodes, and all the Fuko's memories, all the love that she put into it, disappear. And immediately everyone's very concerned. They go running for her, and Fuko sees Tatiana, who is able to leave her ball and go with other people. And
someone gave her clothes.
Yes.
So
a good Samaritan, a good hero, gave her some clothing to wear. And Fuko's like, oh, wow, you're so cute. Are you a model? And they're like, oh, is this what happened? Why is it just Fuko? And Luna's like, she agreed to do this. This is, the price she had to pay. Game cleared. Congratulations. We'll no longer interfere in this world. Me and the sun will just continue to watch over you as the sun and the moon, quietly in a place no one else knows, a place without gods, and a world for you all. And the chapter ends with Andy walking up to Fuko and being like, hey, Brat, are you free right now? So, once again, this is not the final chapter of Undead Unluck. But I have to imagine next chapter or something very, very close to this, the end of this series, as we have officially ended the premise of the series.
Yeah, the protagonist has lost her memories, which, according to the Promised Neverland, means that the series is almost over.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that went somewhere. I want to just draw attention to one more detail in the background that I like, which is that while everyone's just is going like, "Oh my God, Fuko," in the background you can see Kudo and Ano-un sharing a hug because Ano-un is fading away too, and it's like, oh yeah, like because obviously it was like, oh, everyone can see them now, but it's like, yeah, but that's the only person that you had for like decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that this in its own way is like it's a very emotional chapter that's got some really nice moments. The loss of Clothy to start off, and then things just keep on going up. It ends on the optimistic note of like, hey, you can always make new memories, and so presumably that's going to be what happens with Fuko. But in a way, this is like another character death. Like the experiences that she had are, more than a lifetime's worth of memories that are just gone.
Quite literally, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that this was actually a very good chapter. I just, wish we had taken a more satisfactory route to get here.
Yeah, I like this chapter a lot. I think it's very emotional. I'm sad to see the series is ending, but I think it's ending on a pretty strong note right now. So, I think this is a good chapter. Good stuff.
Let's do Blue Box, chapter 179, Seeing Things. Last time, of course, as Chinatsu was squaring off against Yumika and their basketball game, Chinatsu was seeing Yumika as a little kid and, like, just remembering their games that they played with each other back then and how Yumika seemed otherworldly, amazingly good. And in the present, Yumika is driving against Nagisa. She does a very fancy thing where it looks like she's going for a layup and then does a quick pass off instead. So everyone's like, "Oh man, she's just really, really good." And there's a contrast that is put between the teams where, like, there are some guys who, don't miss a shot if they have the chance. They play a game that's easy on the nerves to watch. Number 11, Yumika, is an athlete that's all about putting on a show. And Chinatsu is called as the person who, like, doesn't miss a shot if they have a chance. But we also know that she has missed shots, very importantly, before. Chinatsu manages to nail a shot afterwards, but when she looks at Yumika, she again sees Kid Yumika. And Kid Yumika says, "Man, don't you get it? You know what kind of person Chinatsu Kano is? It's the Natsu who admires Yumika and is always running behind her. No matter how hard you try, you can never change that."
You know what? I gotta say, I think this fight was cool, but I think they should have ended it at super. Oh fuck! What's her name? I lost this whole joke now. Fuck! What's her name? Seiko.
Oh no!
Seiko?
The joke's falling apart.
What's her name? What's Chinatsu's rival's name? Yumika.
Yumika.
Yeah, Super Yumika. That would have been where we should have ended instead of going to Kid Yumika. It was a Dragon Ball joke. It sucked. Who cares?
Yumika goes up against another Ame defender, and it's like, okay, well, clearly she can't shoot from here. She does a hook shot. He scores. So Yumika's team Saisha was pulling ahead, and again, Kid Yumika is telling Shinatsu, like, it's hopeless. It's fate. You're born with it. That's why people don't change so easily. There's your parents' genes, your personality, and the environment. And to an 18-year-old kid, those influences are huge. Some might call it talent. I think you're gifted, Chinatsu, but you still can't change anything, including how you're gonna lose this game.
Bum, bum, bum.
Kid Yumika can talk some shit, man.
Kid Yumika's like, boo, Chinatsu, your feet are big and no one loves you.
The game continues, and Chinatsu, as she's looking at Yumika, she's, remembering as a kid where she was, like falling all over herself. Yumiko was always like so much better than her, and just thinking she's so cool. She's so good at basketball. And then she thinks about, how Yumiko is as a person. It's like she's normally like unsociable, but she's kind. And to me, she's like a superhuman. And then Chinatsu gets the ball, goes up against Yumika, shoots it, hits the rim. And she reacts as she misses. And then Nagisa comes in, gets the rebound, hits the layup, and makes it back in to make up for Chinatsu's missed shot. And in that moment, Chinatsu realizes, no, this is our game as high schoolers. And back when we were kids, I was wrong about Yumika. I thought she was superhuman, and so I didn't see her feelings. And she remembers back when she was in dispute with Yumika about like a year and a half ago at this point, not understanding why she quit basketball. And in the present, she defends Yumika and gets the ball away from her. And she realized, like, Yumika would never say those kind of things to me, about fate and all that stuff. That was in my head. I was only seeing things. She gets the ball back again, goes for a shot, swishes it. Gets to celebrate with her teammates, and everyone's like, damn, she's really good too. We get to see Yumika watching her friend and, just kind of smiling to herself. And like the sweat on her face makes it look like she's crying a little bit too. She's not, but it kind of looks like that with the close up there. Yumika is still playing really well, though. She manages to score even when she gets fouled by Nagisa's defense. And everyone's like, damn, she is on fire. And so even though we've got that note of Chinatsu, it's like, hey, she realizes like she was in her own head. She's not being herself anymore. Yumika is still really, really good. A very hard opponent to beat. And in the crowd, Chinatsu's father says, you sometimes see them like that. Outliers who just make you feel like all the hard work you put in are a waste of time. And actually, he might not be saying that, but there's a word bubble right next to him, so I'm going to act like he's saying that.
Yeah, it would make sense. Well, I don't know. Maybe would it make sense? I don't know, but it does feel fitting if he's the one that says it, since he was the figure of antagonism at the start of this arc to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Sports manga, Quinn.
I mean, we actually are getting like a real sports rivalry and all this sort of thing out of this. So I will consider myself very grateful for this little detour of action that we get here. I don't know how long this is going to be. Like next week, they could be like, and the match is over.
And the match is over.
I'd be like, sure, dog, I guess, yeah. And I didn't realize it, but I guess we were done.
The match is over. Ooh, shenanigans with the Yame and Kyo. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, let's go see what Hina's been up to. I haven't seen her in a little bit. Good chapter.
Yeah, I loved it. Chainsaw Man, chapter 189. Heart, pass, octopus. Just for those sentences that you say a million times a day.
Now, I think, did we talk about the previous chapter of Chainsaw Man, or did that come out while we were, there was like holiday breaks?
I guess we didn't because it was December 31st that came out.
But in lieu of going back and recapping another chapter.
Yoshida came back.
it very specifically, the devil that was coughed up was the octopus devil. Yoshida got to come back, basically. And he's like, well, I don't think your plan's going to work. But what if I shove my hand down your throat? Maybe I can, like, interfere in the other world. And that's what happens this week.
Yep. He just shoves his hand into Denji's mouth in the Aging Devil world, and while his hand is sticking out of Chainsaw Man's mouth in the real world, he commands the Octopus Devil, grab. And, it tries to grab at the Aging Devil. And then he pulls it up and is like, oh, no, my tentacle got chopped off.
The panel where you see Denji with Yoshida's arm in his mouth is horrifying, because I'm like, Denji's jaw is dislocated, and like you'd have to be like, thank God this guy doesn't work out, because if this guy was like jacked, and I had to like, because he gets to like his fucking like mid like upper arm,
down to the bicep, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, all right, well, if we just kind of hop through your mouth at this point to go to the other world, we would just get killed immediately. So that's not an option. The Agent Devil is like, well, this is interesting. This is happening. The Chainsaw Man's still trying to fight him while things are now coming out of his mouth, including then Yoru's hand as she goes bang, and then she's like, I can't see through your stupid mouth. And while she's, sticking her hand down Denji's throat, and of course then she looks as like,
I don't even know. I saw this panel before and just didn't really process it. Is that you just smash cut to the next moment and just her legs are hanging out of Denji's mouth. He has fit an entire person inside of him.
So she's like, all right, I'm going to get him now. And then she looks and realizes the Aging Devil is just pointing right at her. It goes bang. She gets really scared for a second. And then she goes, it gets really wrinkly. Her face collapses. And then she gets coughed back up into the Aging Devil world. Immediately gets up and goes, am I beautiful?
So adorable. Because it's not as though Asa took back over to be like, oh, it's like a young teenage girl's insecurity. Like, Yoru also asks the question, am I still beautiful? And gets the, yep, and you're cute responses. I don't know how Denji's talking right now. It's truly a marvel.
It seems as though there's apparently something with him being Chainsaw Man that lets him just do that with his jaw, which I guess makes sense because he's supposed to eat people.
That makes sense when you think about it, because think of the most notable things you remember about chainsaws. The bladed, serrated. They have that large kind of motorized sound, and then yes, of course, you could dislocate their jaw and extend it really wide. Honestly, kind of stretch Armstrong big.
Yor gets really pissed off for the Aging Devil, quote, marring my beauty even for an instant. But Yoshida realizes when she comes back totally unharmed, devil powers don't work in this world. Which doesn't really come up for the rest of the chapter, but it definitely seems like he's thinking of something.
Yes.
Chainsaw Man is continuing to cut apart the Aging Devil wherever he gets close. The Aging Devil just goes, large intestine, and... oh, God. What's her face on the ground?
Fumino, I believe.
Fumino. She just goes... coughing up blood. And so the Agent Devil's like, come on, you're just, adding to the body count here. So the fight's futile. And, you must be sick of, Fumiko. And the Agent Devil says, you must be, sick of human flesh by now. And mine, tastes like lotus root. It'd be great. And then someone walks up. And the Agent Devil goes, well, huh? And Fumiko looks down at Fumiko. And says, wow, I'm real hardy, aren't I? Still alive. I promised myself in my dying moment I would side with the likelier winner. So I'll leave it to you, she says to the other her, who says, okay, Yoshida-senpai, I give you my heart. And Yoshida says, thanks, Octopus. You can have Mifune's heart. Swallow. And he casts his hand through Denji's stomach, and a giant mouth comes up through the building the Aging Devil is in. Kind
of like an octopus baby head of some kind. Truly just an eldritch abomination, if I were to have ever seen one.
This is a great chapter to ask at the end, what is happening right now?
These are the chapters I've been missing, where it ends in a moment where you're like, oh, this is wild and crazy, and I don't know what's going to happen next. So these are the ones that make it worth it, even though I think the pacing has been a little off for the series. But this is such a funny chapter, again, as people are just shoving their bodies down Denji's mouth and then firing things out the other side. And I don't know what's going on with Fumiko. I don't know why there's a second one that's just like, well, looks like things have been rough for you. Anyway, we're dying, so I guess I'm going to side with the one who's going to win. So, give your heart to Yoshida.
I do like that when she showed up, the agent was just like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. The agent devil's like in the same attitude we are. I'm like, wait, what? Why are there two of you?
Yeah, fun. Quinn.
Yes.
Dandadan, 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 dandadan.
Dandadan, 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 dandadan. Yeah, this is chapter 180, the owner of the Kazuka knife. So we are jumping into Dandadan. I don't think we talked about the last arc that was going on in it, but there was basically a very small miniature arc that occurred before this that actually functioned very perfectly because we are at it just ended. Like, we don't even have to mention it. We literally are jumping in.
I am so glad I don't have to pretend that I care about Seiko and whoever her two flunkies are.
Yeah.
I don't even know their names.
I don't even think those are regular flunkies. I think they were just two YouTubers that the Dandadan author was like, I like these guys. I'm going to make them, they're going to fight Jiangxis or whatever. Instead, we open with the group basically watching over Koki Yukishiro, the girl with the, I don't know what her power was called, but I'm going to call it the harvest power. She control the pygmy princess. That's it. So
Pygmies, yeah.
She is getting observed. Kinta is kind of taking point, but most of the nerds are there. Actually, they're all just kind of hanging around.
Yeah.
And we get sort of a refresh of whatever plan they're doing, which is like they're observing her because teachers are going to make contact with her, and this is their in to find out who's trying to use these knives for everything. So 3 teachers have been noted as visiting her. One is Queen Sensei, who they were like, she was involved in the incident. It would make sense why she would talk to her. One is Michidachi, which is her homeroom teacher, so she was talking about homeroom stuff. And then he mentioned Sanjime was there, and he asked her to tell him, quote, what secret she spotted. And everyone's like, okay, so it's that guy, because that's a weird thing he asked, and he doesn't have a reason to talk to her, basically. But Kenta does. I don't know if this is from wisdom or he's just a pompous idiot. I really don't know which it's supposed to be more, because he very frequently just talks in, like, confidence.
Yes, but you need to understand, Sanjime is just mysterious in general, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a fair logical point. This is a guy who does just approach you and say weird things. So it is not instantly, a red flag, even though we as an audience know he is involved in some aspect of this to some degree, at least with the knives. But anyways, he says he didn't say anything about the power, the knives or the powers, so there's no reason to conclude he is the culprit. There's a moment where Ira tries to take his glasses, and because they are the nanotech whatever things, nanoskin, they start to transform into what she wants them to transform into, and it's immediately Okarun's glasses. So we get a little cute, not ship tease, because that ship sailed, but, cute little silly moment between those dorks. We instead focus on Miss Adachi, who is coming back. She's greeted by, I presume, a phys ed teacher, and they're like, oh, did you go out? She's like, oh, yeah, my mother wasn't feeling very well, but she's okay now, and she kind of blows off hanging with this guy later, and then looks at her phone. Uh-oh, she got one of those texts, but she couldn't succeed because the woman wasn't alone. Dun, dun, dun. So she continues on with her Jiangxi army behind her, kind of invisibly. Cut over to, and I had to look this guy's name up because I did not remember him, Heisei, who is the school bully that Okarun kind of unintentionally dunked on when they did just a regular foot race again. And he just walks up to two.
Not even with superpowers. It's just that Okarun got fit while trying to train to use Turbo Granny's powers, and now he's just a really good athlete.
Yep.
So that's just it.
So he walks up, he teases his 2 girls by like flicking their ponytails, and he's like, "Whoa, why are you talking on your phones when you're right in front of each other? Show me what's on your phone."
What are what are you, 40? Come on, dude. Like, what's your problem?
Yeah, I was like, are these two your daughters? Why are you so weird about what they're doing on their phone? Are you trying to date one? I don't get it. One of them on the phone says, hey, do you think Takakura looks kind of hot recently? And he's really upset.
Which actually makes sense, like, why they talk on their phones like that.
Yes.
When you think about it, it's like, I want to be able to, like, to talk about things that I don't want people to overhear, so let's talk on our phones even though we're right in front of each other, because people can overhear us that way.
Specifically, also, you avoid the, like, you could continue the conversation in talking afterwards once you've identified the subject. Right. You don't have to say their name again. So he's like, hey, you got a thing for Takakura? And they're like, let's get out of here. And he's like, hey, well, wait a minute. And lady girl slaps his hand. It's like, get the fuck away from me, you weird loser. So Heisei just starts kind of stomping away, and he starts thinking how sick he is of Ken Takakura and how all this is because of him. Ever since he's beaten him in that foot race, nothing's gone his way. And he's like, how can this little twerp be better? And he pulls out a white knife, Nick. And he remembers in another flashback he at one point heard a voice talking to him. And the voice was coming from him saying, hey, there are these two little daggers here. You're the only one who could hear me, and you want to beat him, don't you? So why don't you hurt yourself with the white blade, and it'll give you special powers. And then you can use this black blade to take Takakura's powers. You got to beat him, but you need to make him accept defeat first. And you can take everything from him. You get it? So, in the present, Heisei is holding this white knife, and he's like, I must be crazy. Why would I ever believe anything like this? It's got to be some kind of joke. And he cuts himself with the knife, and he's like, see? I knew nothing would even happen. Who came up with such an elaborate prank? I'm such an idiot for falling for it. And then we end the chapter on a one-page spread of the new yokai behind Heisei, who I guess we'll find out which yokai this is, but I'm going to presume this is not going to go well for the kid.
Yeah, I really like this as an introduction to this, new stretch of it, because we're a little bit in media res because of the through lines through it, but we're at a nice jumping on point. There's a nice clean break to get into here. I am really digging Sanjome as the kind of like current big bad of the series, because he's so different from everything that we've seen before.
Yes.
He's clever, he's subtle, but still got that, weirdness factor about him once you actually get to be up close and interact with him on stuff. And it's also kind of hard to tell, like, what the hell does he even really want with everyone? He just wants everyone's powers. That just seems to just be it currently. And somehow Dandadan is involved. What is that? But it's interesting to see this guy who was, when he has fought, been so powerful and competent, just be like, hey, random people, you go around and humiliate these guys whose powers I want to steal and stab them with these, like, instead of doing anything by himself.
It is interesting because I also have to wonder if, to some degree, I wonder if there isn't an element to the story we don't know yet. Because we know that this person is the hypothetical hyper geezer that Turbo Granny saw and was really angry about.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that he has some connection to these blades because he used them when he helped to fight against Fairy Tail. But I almost wonder if there is like an intentional red herring going on to make us think he is the one also behind these coordinated attacks on our characters. Because there's nothing
maybe it's just someone else using the same tools.
Yeah, these things just could exist independently. So yeah, it's interesting to see if what they're gonna do with that, or if they are essentially, there might be like an extra factor there.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll see. All right. Let's go over to Spy Family, chapter 109. Hey, so Mrs. Desmond Melinda is here to see Lloyd for a therapy session. There's a joke at the beginning where she's like adopting a fighting stance because Yor has the misinterpretation about how Lloyd beats up his patients sometimes, and she thought that was just kind of normal, and so Melinda's like, don't you try and hit me, which is kind of terrifying. So Lloyd goes over her symptoms, which are like headaches, insomnia, diminished appetite. She also has an attendant, like a chauffeur with her at the beginning of the session, and not too long into it, Melinda dismisses her so that she can, get into more uh, private matters. Lloyd, of course, is focusing everything on hey, just anything that you got going on in your mind. It's important to be able to share them with someone, and so he's trying to present this friendly face while he's also just kind of whatever little pieces of intel you've got, give them to me for world peace. Give me your secrets, that kind of thing. Melinda brings up how she was once a patient at this hospital before, and Lloyd goes over her medical file and realizes, oh, it was right after the war, essentially. So there wasn't really much of a psychiatry department back then. So yeah. And she says that everyone was kind of looking to them. The eyes of the nation and other nations were upon us. And even the doctor in charge of my care treated me with a great deal of trepidation. And, Lloyd says, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And Melinda says, look, because I met Yor, that convinced me that, maybe people might not just regard me as the former First Lady anymore. And it's also convinced me that maybe I need to change. At the time, back then, I was seeking help as the spouse of a party chairman. Today, I'm just here as a mother and wife. And so Lloyd says, okay, well, so is this a family matter that you're here? This distress that you're experiencing? And Melinda says, Doctor, do you believe in UFOs? And Lloyd gives a very long answer that I think is probably too in-depth, even for in-universe. But essentially he is trying to not say you're crazy if you think UFOs exist, and so he kind of talks himself into making it sound like he could find it acceptable. Anyway, after he has done that, Lloyd says, oh, sorry though. We were discussing your family, I guess. Is there a connection between that and UFOs? And so Lloyd's thinking maybe her sons are interested in UFOs. What maybe Donovan's got something to do with space exploration. And Linda just says, in truth, my husband is an alien. And that's the chapter. So,
interesting. I don't know how literally. I'm choosing not to take this literally because it would seem wild if Spy Family was all right, 100 chapters in, aliens exist.
That being said, and I do agree with you, so I'm I don't think that. But we have firmly established that dogs that can see the future and psychic little girls are real.
Yes.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's it sounds just feasible enough to work as a one-chapter cliffhanger like this.
Yes.
And I do wonder if those things that I just mentioned may be potentially what is actually going on with Desmond, and she is just kind of interpreted that way because of her interest in the occult and stuff. We know that these experiments have been, going on for some time. So, hey, maybe there is a reason that Desmond is as weird as he is. Maybe, he was subject to them in some way, or maybe he is, tied up with those experiments in some way. It's possible. But it is interesting to just have the man's own wife say, he's an alien, to give you an idea of how weird he is.
Yeah, very, very strange.
All right.
Very, very interesting. Curious to see what they're going to do next with it.
Yep. Okay, Quinn. Astro Royale, Chapter 36, Japanese Yakuza Association. Well, there's a lot of BDSM in the beginning of this. There they are.
It's so confusing because at first I was like, I guess they're just going to continue on with that thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait, that was the element of the dude who was fake, I think. Unless the real brother also had it. But then it's revealed it's not even the brother who this is for. There's just another character who also kind of has like a BDSM kink gimmick. And I'm like, is this like a cultural thing? Like, I forget which part of Japan they're in, but it's like the area of Japan where they're just like, hey, what are you going to do? Sometimes you just need some leather harnesses.
It's the battle royal. Everyone's in the Cell Games ring. They're in the Tenkaichi ring, with the stone race platform and stuff. And it's like, all right, 300 competitors, final 8 survivors get to go to the actual finals, and the winner of that gets to have the Daybreak or okay. So Hibari and Tarasu throw down with a bunch of people, and the announcer, who is just this woman in thigh-high boots and bondage gear, and she's got her man that she's digging her heel into the back of, and she's like, today's tournament is brought to you by the Japanese Yakuza Association. And Yubara's like, what, Japanese Yakuza Association, what? Another competitor punched him in the head, and we are introduced
the series ends.
Yeah.
He got hit real hard in the back of the head, and he went down.
We are introduced to 4 members of the Japanese Yakuza Association, including Shikaba, who we've met before. They're there. So they're on thrones, very weirdly spaced from each other on the bleachers. It's an odd visual. Someone put their throne on these oversized bleachers. It's odd. So Hibara's like, oh man, and Dad was at the top of that group that, keeps the entire country's underworld in check. And they're sponsoring the tournament? And Tarasu's like, yeah, and the leaders are totally different from when Dad was in it. Thanks, guys. So, fighting happens.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting happens. The Kanetora faction, which is one of the members of the Yakuza Federation, his son Kogane Godai, who's got a bunch of tattoos, and those tattoos, he's got to draw them every single time that this guy shows up. So this guy is going to last a long time in this series. Tournament brackets drawn up whenever we get down to our final 8. Hibara and Tarasu, their odds of winning and the betting pools are so low, you guys. Oh, no one believes in them because
such underdogs, Nick. It's crazy.
If you don't believe they're underdogs, look at their numbers, guys. Come on. So, older concerned brother guy Hiyohiko is just like, oh, it's so dangerous. What do you do? And Hibaro and Tarasu are like, whatever, we're gonna go win. They go into the tournament. Hibaro is up against I don't know, Naito Saotome, I think is his name. I think goes in, he tries to attack Hibaro punches him, and gets knocked all the way to the edge of the arena, and Hibaru's like, let's get really started. Everyone's like, oh my god, he's so strong. Quinn, I don't know, if a giant meteoroid crashed into the earth, gave a bunch of people superpowers of wildly different utilities, power scopes, and I didn't know what one person's was, I wouldn't bet against them if there was a tournament featuring them. Because they might have a power that explodes everyone's brains in a 5-mile radius, and maybe you shouldn't count on them not having that power.
I mean, logically, yes, this does make a lot of sense, but have you ever considered that they're dorks? So look at these big stupid dorks. They're underdogs. Let's bet against them, I guess.
They do look like dorks. I'll give you that.
I don't have a lot of strong things about this chapter, Nick. I am not excited for this tournament. I don't care about these characters. I don't get why there's a Japanese Yakuza Association as opposed to the Brazilian Yakuza Association? What's you're the only country with the Yakuza, Japan? Who else has one? That's a redundant word.
God. Hey, let's move over to Hima-Ten. Chapter number 25. Homesick Kana. Kana is homesick. That's what is happening. She's all by herself in her apartment, and she's kind of like, oh, yeah, I moved to Tokyo by myself. Himari gets word of this, comes over to Imori, and is like, yeah, so she's like, she got in touch with me after you left my place recently. She's homesick. I'm going to go and hang out with her after school to cheer up. You want to come too? And Imori's like, yeah, okay. And so they go meet up with Kana to hang out together and make her feel better. Isn't that nice?
Yep.
Kana's apologetic because she's like, I know you guys are like, you want me to succeed and stuff, and I need to stay positive and everything, so I'm sorry that I worried you and stuff. Iamori's just being a nice guy, says, how you doing in school and everything. But Kana reflects like, yeah, everyone at the school knows that I model, and so all these sleazy dudes keep coming up to me, trying to give me their contact information, and I don't know how to handle that. So
very understandable.
Himari gets really big sister.
She has like a real moment of like, I don't know what to do with the fact that I get this attention. As she elaborates, she's like, I don't hate that I get this attention. It is what I am doing this for to a certain extent. I just don't know how to handle it. But I do love Himari immediately goes into what they call Himam mode, and she's just like, I'll deal with them. I'll kill every single one of those motherfuckers if you need me to.
I love her in this moment. She's like, yeah, they try some with you, tell me. I'll get our agency involved to put a stop to it. It's like, hell yeah, good for you. So she's like, no, you don't have to fucking deal with that. Yeah. So they end up going to a shrine that is fairly close to their school that Kana had heard about, and she says, yeah, this shrine's apparently like good luck for your career. And so Himari's like, all right, yeah, I'm into that. We're launching the Lucky Love lipstick line, so I'll pray for it to be a hit. And she's like, yeah, I always do a prayer whenever I launch a new product. And Iamori's like, I didn't really take you for the time to do that. She says, well, what do you mean? And he says, I mean, I just kind of don't expect you to believe in like superstitions and fortunes. I just kind of thought you believed in your own hard work. And Himari gets kind of like a self-conscious look on her face, and then she Hina humphs and says, you're expecting too much from me. Don't you know company presidents rely on a lot of outside forces for help? Yeah, but they rely on ones that are real. So that's not true. Some CEOs are stupid.
Yeah,
so.
I was going to say, Nick, I know some that probably are dumb, but also, Nick, I started up a pretzel lollipop company, and I've been praying to a lot of different gods, and it still hasn't taken off. So I'm starting to think she might be right. I might actually need to develop an actual pretzel lollipop first before I'm like, why isn't my company taking over? Why am I not in every restaurant?
So is that a lollipop made of pretzel? A pretzel made of lollipop? Is it a lollipop whose stick is a pretzel? Can you walk me through this, Quinn? President Quinn, you're a lollipop pretzel.
Now, interesting, because I have not to this point ever actually considered. I've kind of had this company and expected money to come in. I'm not actually sure yet, because at first I was like, Nick, obviously it's, and then I just kind of, my mind went blank. I think your fantastic idea just never even want to come up, so I would like to hire you for Pretzel Lollipop Inc. if I could. Of the lollipop that has a pretzel for a stick is really good, because you would have to get something really, really sweet, then eat something really, really salty, but that's kind of ruined texturally by the fact it's been attached to something
very
really
mushy.
Sweet.
It's very mushy in one part of it, and the other part of it will, in your efforts to get the lollipop done, will almost certainly have broken.
Yeah,
so
that's
very tricky.
That's the main thing, is we are not going to distribute this whatsoever. This is going to be a lollipop that is too big for the pretzel it's on, and it will break off. That is a guarantee. And there is no way to eat it except to just kind of hold it in your hand and lick it out of it.
That's how we get the sales to be up so high, is that all the kids will do that thing where they, lick the ice cream and the scoop falls out, but it's like, hey, it's going to be every single one.
Yeah.
Crack the pretzel, they got to go buy another one.
People buy 2 just to be safe.
Yeah. Anyway, Himari and Iemori have this, exchange where, I mean, I kind of understand why Kana, just kind of catches this, because they're having a bizarrely, intimate level conversation of, that people who are not close don't have. And she's like, yeah, did something happen between you guys during the trip? Because you guys are, really getting along. You're closer, you mesh better. And, of course, Himari is immediately like, no! I mean, no! Obviously not. No! And then she has to tell herself, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. It was just an accident that I kissed him on the cheek and nothing happened. Anyway, they're in the shrine. They are, looking around, and Himari's like, hey, we should take a picture together. And then, we can put it up on Insta. And kind of takes a picture of the two of them hanging out. And Himari says, no one would recognize our uniforms. I think it'd be okay if you posted it. Which I guess is because they've taken off certain parts of them to kind of make them not super recognizable as the uniforms for the schools that they're from.
Yeah.
And I guess that they're concerned about stalking or violating school rules or something like that.
I think the concern would probably be they don't want where they go to school to be known, because then you can get weirdos hanging outside schools and stuff like that.
Yeah. Iemori is observing them while they take pictures and stuff. And Kana notes, hey, I don't really know what kind of pictures I should be posting. And Himari notes, my audience is mostly girls. You're doing pinups, so you probably want guys to follow you too. And she says, you should try and give off girlfriend material vibes. So they should be jealous of the person who's taking the picture for getting to hang out with you. And then Kana's like, oh yeah, hey, you should take my picture, Iemori. She does that, and she does a begging face, giving won't you don't you think I'm cute?
She did the pleading eyes emoji basically, and you're like, oh
yeah. And Himari's like, yeah, do it. Then Kana says you do it, Himari, and she's like, I'm not doing that. No, that's not my appeal. I don't have your sex appeal, so I'm not going to do that. And Kana's like, you'd be really cute girlfriend material. And Himari this is a foreign language to her for some reason, and Kana's like, you give off the vibe that you're so difficult to get close to. It's you would never tell anyone how you feel. You don't open yourself up to anyone. So and she's like, why are you saying this? This is really bad things and mean things that you're saying.
Yeah, she's no. Why are you shitting on me, girl? Did I offend you earlier or something?
It's you're such a bitch. It's no. What I mean is, because you're such a bitch, that if you were close to someone, that would be really appealing, because you would be it's you're only showing it exclusively to them. And so Kana's yeah, what if you were to be oh, can I have a hug? I'm so tired. And Himari's I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that ever. And Iemori over on the side's thinking, that'd be really cute, actually. That would be... So, and then immediately Himari's are you imagining it? No, I did not just think of that. No. It's very cute. The three of them finally get to the actual shrine, kind of prays for her career, and then is let me just try and catch up to Himari a little bit. Aww. Idolizes her senpai, friend. Afterwards, Kana's doing a lot better, so mission accomplished. Then she, brings up to Himari, did you ever feel homesick? And Himari says, nah, not really. Iemori handles all the things I don't know how to do on my own. To which Kana's well, that's not fair, because I can't have him do that for me. I can't afford him. But Himari reflects on what she's just said, and she's I didn't realize it, but he actually helps me feel at home because of what he does. Aw.
That actually is like a
They're about to...
genuinely very sweet sentiment as well. It's just like, oh, I guess I never really got homesick because just having this guy kind of in my life has made me feel like my house is my home. Like I belong here essentially. And like, oh, that's very, very sweet.
Iemori, as they're about to say goodbye, has some presents. He gives Kana a charm that he got from the shrine. And he's like, yeah, I didn't really actually, I feel like I didn't help you on this, like, make you feel better thing. So this is just kind of a thing. And also, you got one for Yoshino. And Himari's like, you should just give him one to Kana, because now it's like not special for her. And Iemori says, I thought you'd be happy if you had matching ones. Because, she looks up to you and stuff.
I hate this guy. He's so dim-wittedly, naively just the best. Like, just truly, like, he's just so earnestly just like, oh, I thought you'd enjoy matching ones because you guys have such a fantastic relationship. And she's just like, yeah, actually, I do like this a lot better. And it's like, God damn it. Can't you have a fucking... This guy needs to have, like, bodies in a basement or something like that. It's one of those things where you're just like, I hate that you're this...
I have to clean.
Yeah.
I have to clean.
Yeah, you're somewhere you're scrubbing like the hitchhiker's body off of a building. You're just like, it has to be spotless.
Yeah, very sweet chapter. Love the interaction between these three. Yeah, very cute.
Very,
and all right. Ichi the Witch, 17th hunt out of your depth. Kamuki is on the sidelines outside of the battle arena while Ichi is trying to take on the world hater magic. And Shira Badona is saying to her through the mirror, is like, hey, don't look away. Don't stop writing. Get every detail. Don't overlook even the tiniest speck. And Kamugi is doing this as best she can. She is using magic with endless ink. Kanpeli. Must not have been the most intimidating magic to take down. But she's got like three like floating pens taking notes along with her while she's also got one in her hand. So, just a nice little touch there.
Yeah.
But of course, she's also just worried about Ichi, her friend, who is, in mortal danger against the strongest magic in the world. Anywho, Ichi has just unleashed the Hisame magic and frozen all of the horrifying warper skeleton soldier things and stopped their progress. And so Kamugi is briefly relieved when that happens. And then, of course, because Ichi channeled Ororo's power into this, he starts to collapse. And immediately, his witch's guise falls off. The world hater magic is also frozen amidst everything. And so the crowd that was, in danger is like, oh my God, he stopped the monsters. We're saved. Hooray. And Kamugi looks like relieved that this has happened, and then she looks in the mirror and realizes that everyone in the Witches Association is like, nah, it's not over. And immediately there is a chime as the World Hair Magic staff, the rings on a chime, and the ice bursts off of him, and he's totally unharmed. He lifts his finger up, and Ichi is like drawn upward by magical force. He grabs Ichi by the neck and says, what arrogance. So you halted their advance temporarily. It means nothing. If you think that's all it takes to hunt me, you're a fool. And Ichi stabs him in the neck. And it doesn't kill the World Hair Magic. It doesn't even seem to like really hurt him a lot. It discomforts him, seemingly.
It's probably not pleasant, but yeah, it hasn't taken him out.
Yeah. And Ichi says, oh, you wrapped your neck up so much, I thought you might be hiding a weak spot, but I guess not. And the World Hair Magic realizes, like, oh, he actually stabbed himself in the leg earlier to force himself to stay awake, to have this opening. And Ichi grabs the World Hair Magic by the collar, and he says, what's your weakness? Where is it? Your head? Your limbs? Your heart? Or is this another one of those things with the ridiculous conditions? What do I have to do to hunt you? And then he falls unconscious. But there's a full, like, 2-page spread of him just looking like a madman into the World Hair Magic's eyes while he's saying all this. The World Hair Magic gets an interested expression on his face, and he's like, oh, and then he kind of like gathers himself, like, no, that's a human emotion. No, don't look that way. And he says that Ichi is out of his depth. And he says, maybe if you had used Aurora to breach a hole in my barrier, hey, maybe you could have gotten yourself out. Maybe you could have gotten some of the people to safety. A few could have been saved. But because of your hubris, everyone dies. Beginning with you, little mouse. I'll warp you beyond recognition until nothing of you remains. And creepy stuff starts happening to Ichi's body. Distorting it, flesh gets all tendrily and stuff like that on his face. And then a sword comes through the World Hair Magic's stomach.
The World Hair Magic's gotta be like, again? Wait, what is... like,
what the
fuck? This is twice I've been stabbed in this chapter. This is absurd. I'm just gonna stop saying dramatic things at this point.
And then there's an explosion as well. As, hey, Descarus is here to save the day. And she says, the only one going down is you. Here and now, you insane excuse for a magic. And she stuck her sword through the World Hair Magic and then exploded him. So it did definitely mess him up. You can see his body reforming. Mm-hmm. And he recognizes her. And Descarus says, who else? Everyone's favorite uber talented badass, Descarus.
Hell yeah.
Oh, man. Quinn, like, who's the coolest person in this chapter? Like, it's
there's a lot of very cool moves happening, but I am super excited to see Descarus like kind of take a center stage in this series, and I'm kind of hoping she does some really cool shit. Did we know she had an exploding sword before?
I mean, we've had so few chances to actually see her like cast proper combat magic, so I don't think so.
Okay. Anyways, super cool.
It would have been probably a chapter 1 if she ever used it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a while, even if we did see it, but super cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does out of all this. I assume she has a sort of infamy for a reason amongst magics.
Absolutely. Sid Craft. Case 7. The Great Detective's crew sets out to sea in disguise. Hey, so that whole thing with the bomb being on the ship? There is a follow-up to that. They're going on the ship to solve that mystery.
I really thought that was just going to get handled off screen. They're like, yeah, it's Sid Craft. You know he's going to be able to find that bomb. We're going to see if he can.
So Sid and Souffle are in disguise going onto the cruise ship, the Elfie, where the bomb is planted, and they're very awkwardly calling each other by first names because they're pretending to be married. Newlyweds, specifically. So Sid is dressed as Tuxedo Mask, and Souffle is dressed in like a dress with a sun hat for once, as opposed to her inspector outfit. We get a recap of not just the bomb letter, but also the fact that they approach the security and where it's like, there's gonna be a bomb on the ship, and they were like, look, if we treated every bomb threat as seriously, then we would never get to have cruise ships. We're looking through everyone's luggage. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. We're on it.
Apparently, Souffle went to her boss as well and said, like, oh, I actually don't think it's even her boss. I think it's just like the owner of the ship or something like that. But the owner's just like, look, I can't just permit the police on board, but if you must investigate, you could board as an individual unrelated to the police. Pretend to be on your honeymoon to make it seem natural. And they just took the first recommendation that they heard.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
They were like, we can't come up with a better idea than that, so let's do the one that's actively antagonistic towards one of the two people in this group.
I guess that actually that is a member of the police because Souffle refers to him as a constable. Anywho. But there is so they're like, on the dance floor together at the beginning, and Souffle is just kind of like, sorry, I'm not a good dancer, is tripping over herself and stuff. But then she says, but actually the fact that we're close to each other does kind of make us look like newlyweds, doesn't it? But she's also like looking up at him, giving the big puppy dog eyes.
She's trying to be like a really she's like method acting. She's like, we should be closer if we're trying to. And then she's like, come on, we're husband and wife. Put your hand on my back.
Put your hand on me.
Let's like start touching me. Let's get going. And then she eventually just loses herself in it. Like, she gets so into the role, she forgets they're not actually supposed to be married, which I found kind of funny.
Souffle may not be the MVP of this week. She is the MVP of this chapter. She's very funny in it. She brings up Elio not being there. And Sid says, like, oh, I left Elio behind. I want to keep him away from danger as much as possible. You can't do that with your Watson, Sid. Stop it. I guess he just thinks of Elio as his young assistant, though, instead of his investigative partner. He is thinking that, like, maybe the whole thing is a prank and stuff. So he tries to relax a bit and thinks, if everything is safe, maybe I should have brought Elio along. And it turns out Elio is there. And somehow ended up being with the band. Now, Quinn, we're given a flashback to explain how this happened. And I still don't know how this happened.
It's very funny. She just kind of walks by and someone sees her and is like, oh, you're just the person I need. I need somebody to fill in for a member of my group that can't perform. But that member of the group is the singer. And this person on site immediately identified, like, okay, so you're a girl. I don't know why you're dressed as a boy, and I don't actually care. So I'm going to put you in the outfit now, and then I'm going to give you, I guess, a song lyric sheet to sing off of. But if you go off script, I'm going to let it go for a little bit.
And did nothing to establish that Elio can sing at all.
There's nothing to say that Elio has a voice good for singing whatsoever,
So this Kate Waltz person who has got Elio there is like, come on, Elio, project. You don't know she can sing. This has never been established to you or to us that Elio can sing previously.
I don't know, because I'm now looking at the first panel, and I'm not sure if, like, Elio, when she's skipping on the boat, is meant to be, there's, like, a sound effect there of Tim, 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 and I don't know if that's supposed to...
That's her steps.
That's the steps. I was like, maybe she's humming and she has like a beautiful voice. I have no idea. Yeah, this woman just sight unseen is like, would you like to frontline Metallica for the night? And you're like, I wouldn't do that, but okay.
So anyway, then I got to go up on the stage, brother, and
Hulk Hogan, you got up on stage.
And then I saw the man that I am in love with, dude, and so I just broke out with a, what you gonna do? Well, get booed, by the way.
I was gonna say, I feel like the only appropriate way to do this impression is if I boo you the entire time.
Fuck you, Hulk Hogan!
He's like, I know how to turn this around, brother. I'll bring up 2 dead wrestlers who famously hated me.
And say that they love me in the end. She spots Sid dancing with Souffle, and Souffle being like, we're a married couple, so why are you blushing? And just getting really into him. And so Elio thinks that they're actually married and just goes, oh, why? And everyone's like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a banger now, I guess. And so that happens. And Sid briefly thinks like, that kind of sounds like Elio. If Elio had a female range. It's like, all right.
It's very funny because, like, this is such, like, a tenuous, silly little, like, character joke of, like, Sid can't recognize Ellie as a girl, but, like, everyone else seems to accept the main characters, like, except for Souffle and Sid. And I guess the joke is Souffle is such a bad detective, she can't pick up on it, right. And Souffle is just so love blind, but everyone else very clearly sees it. And, like... yeah, they're just going to go along with it. Like, just everyone's like, all right, rock it, girl. Like, I want to hear more about your story. And all Sid had to be is like, huh, that sounds like what Elio would sound like if he was a girl, but he's not. Da, 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 da. Just goes back to dancing.
The security go over to Elio and are like, hey, that's not the song we ordered. Come on, stick to the song that we wanted to hear. And then Sid gets a brain blast and takes Souffle down to the boiler room. And Souffle is immediately like, huh, it's hot and sweaty down here. I see. Well, I just need to prepare myself in order for us to have sex, basically. She's so into the role. She's like, I guess we'll do this.
She's like, we are a married couple. We should consummate our marriage to perhaps make ourselves more convincing to the nobody around us.
And Sid's like, no, we're here. I'm here for the mystery.
Bomb! There's the bomb right there, Mrs. Souffle. Stop. Put your clothes back on.
Damn it. So Souffle says, well, how did you know about that? And then one of the guards says, I'd love to know myself. Grabs Souffle, takes her hostage, and says, well, how did you know? And Sid establishes, you guys were the ones who were checking all the passengers' baggage, so you were able to cover it up. Also, there was a small detail visually that your pouch was overstuffing at the start of the dance, and then it was empty at the end. But there was also the fact that you were sweating unnaturally when you showed up, and you reacted poorly to the song lyric "Bombshell." So from all those, I figured that during the 10 minutes or so the dance was going on, the only place you could have worked up a sweat would have been here, and that's where you would have put the bomb. And so the guards goes, damn, and then puts his gun to his own head, and he says, look, this is all over. If either of us fails, my family's going to be killed by that person, so I might as well just... And Sid's trying to do something to stop him, but he's going to be too late, and then there's a bah! As Souffle high kicks and kicks the dude in the nose while he's behind her. Souffle, what a girl. You're so awesome. And cool. She's just like, hey, sorry, I don't know what your reasons are. I'm not going to let you die in front of me. Cool. But problem is that Sid realizes that this guy is not the mastermind here. And he was coerced into this. But he also here remembers him saying, if either of us fails. So there must be at least one other bomber on board. And at that moment, Elio is pulled aside by Kate, who says, like, I'd love to let you hear your wonderful singing voice again. And it's like bothering him while like Elio is already like off stage, the performance is over, and is back in his Elio guise. So, maybe there was a very good reason why the guard was obsessed with the song lyrics being changed.
To be clear, Nick, you do also notice she has a bomb strapped to her, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. I do want to just be very clear. They are not being like coy with the idea that she is the second bomber. She has the bomb on her.
Just call me Inspector Souffle Freeman here.
Inspector Nick. Do you have an idea who the second bomber could be? Well, the other security guard may not be innocent in this whole ordeal. We should investigate him thoroughly.
Oh, boy. All right. Let's go on to Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. Chapter 27, Kiyoshi and Sakaki's Training Time.
Training time. Da, 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 da. Time to train and do all your time in training. Training time.
The one reason you have to do that song. All right. Sakaki has challenged Kiyoshi to train hard with him so that they can test out his abilities to control his precept power. And Sakaki says, like, hey, take this seriously. Come at me like you're trying to kill me. Kiyoshi goes all out from the beginning, shooting big blasts. Sakaki blocks the opening blast and then rolls his dice for high-stakes ability. And it's, well, I rolled a 6. Execution Cleaver. And he's got a Buster Sword now. High stakes is to me like, are you trying to kill this kid? Yep. Because otherwise he's not going to get stronger. Swings the cleaver to attack Kiyoshi, who manages to block it. He darts around behind him, tries to hit an attack, uses his Hades ability, and we just kind of like cut to the end from there, where Kiyoshi is exhausted. He's got bruises and cuts on him. Sakaki's also clearly like he's got a bloody lip. He's got bruises here and there, but he's still able to go. He's got energy to spare. But High Stakes points out like, yeah, you guys have been going for 2 hours straight. And Kiyoshi finally collapses. So Sakaki throws Kiyoshi in. He's gonna boil him alive. He's put him in a cauldron on a fire, but it's okay. It's healing. It's healing bath stuff still.
I was gonna say he basically tries to cook him like he's a like Bugs Bunny and he's a witch or something like that. Like he just throws him in a cartoon pot.
Yeah. Sakaki says when, because Kiyoshi comes to at this point, it's like, hey, you are like extraordinarily strong for a 16-year-old, but you cannot beat me the way that you are right now for 2 reasons. First is the fact that you struggle with your precept power. Obviously, like you've gained some control over it, but you have so much power that you can't control it fully. It's like you're driving a car that's got a ton of horsepower behind it, which makes it hard to control. The other problem you have is that you haven't been through hell very much. You're a newbie and are crazy strong, but you haven't been at the center of carnage and bloodshed. You have not had chances to stare in the eye of death and survive. Sosuke has gotten really strong in a short amount of time, which is probably because of all the experience he's gotten in Concordia, getting real battle experience. He says, "Vivere militare est," to live is to fight, is Concordia's slogan. The more near-death experiences someone overcomes, the brighter and stronger their soul glows. If you're going to exercise the great demon lord, we need to turn those years it takes to build up that power into days. I'm going to devote every day of this week to killing you. I'll drive you to death's door and then hypercharge your recovery with all systems glow again and again to force your strength to grow. Pretty straightforward.
Sure.
Kiyoshi's game for it. They train for the chapter. That's kind of it from there. I feel like I've already been over the most interesting parts. There's a couple of funny bits here and there, like very intensely, Sakaki says, "Sleep is a form of training!" And they're going, while he's yelling about how important it is to sleep.
It's funny.
Kiyoshi pushes himself too much by doing like extra training while he's supposed to be recovering. And Sakaki scolds him and is like, "Hey, you can't do that. We're going to have you go through another recovery bath." And Kiyoshi apologizes for rushing, but he says, "I can't afford to lose anymore because I have to save the souls of the people who were sacrificed." Sakaki says, "Right, I understand. You're like me, basically. You want to protect everyone, and I know how hard that is. You're probably going to be told by everyone that you can't do it. It's a pipe dream to believe you can save everyone, but I believe that you can do it. If anyone can do it, it's you." And then they train more.
Yep.
It gets to a point finally where Kiyoshi is basically fully toe-to-toe with Sakaki. Sakaki's, really beaten up. High Stakes is exhausted behind him, and Sakaki's like, "I never thought you would become this capable. Good job, well done, Kiyoshi." And then the two of them get to have one more bath together. Kiyoshi says, "I'm going to miss this place." And Sakaki says, "Come back here after you win then." And that's the chapter. So weird pacing, but I guess we kind of had to do it. So
we got a training arc chapter, and honestly, I've forgotten what life in this manga is like outside of a bathhouse. I've forgotten what it's like when these characters are in cities or in the restaurant. In my mind, they've just kind of always perpetually been taking baths and then fighting and then taking baths to recover from the last fight.
I think that we were at around like a fifth of this series was just this bathhouse. So quite a bit of it.
Quite a bit of it. But hey, Nick,
Quinn.
We have several chapters technically of marriage talks to talk about. However, God was kind to us. And all three of these chapters have basically been the exact same plot line, which, don't worry, has zero stakes in it.
So far, yes.
This is essentially the equivalent of an anime filler inside of the manga itself. There is the taste user family that we encounter. They have a great restaurant. Garo decides to go there, and he's like, "Oh, this place is great." And it just so happened that the sound user and Beppo are also there, and then they find out the restaurant's going to close. So they're like, "Don't worry, we're going to keep that from happening." And then they kind of do. They make food, and it's good. Kunisaki is the waitress, and they're like, that's great. Like, the server has a lot of charisma, so that's really, that's beneficial to all of us. But the most recent chapter, I believe, ends with like, oh, it seems like there's a hiccup perhaps in their plan.
Right. I really like the moments where, Komatsu is, I don't know his actual name. He's Komatsu.
Komatsu's fine.
He's saying like, oh, these guys are amazing because it's like, yeah, Kinosaki is great and charismatic. Garo-san's got good cooking skills. Naruko-san can hear the voice of ingredients, and Beppu has got good vibes.
He seems like a nice guy.
But then Beppu has this moment where he steps up and he does a fancy thing when like the food prep goes wrong, and instead makes a show of it by shooting sauce out of his gun and saves the day. So glad to have you here, Beppu. Good for you, buddy.
Yes. The most recent.
Anyway, here's a giant lobster.
Yeah. Well, the most recent chapter is chapter 113, and the main dish is a lobster that is in transit right now, but they didn't knock it unconscious basically correctly. So it's still alive and it's rampaging, and our heroes go to deal with it essentially. And lo and behold, it does seem that by the end of the chapter, they will have successfully taken it out.
Yeah, I really liked the ending of chapter 112 when the lobster, it turns out, is loose, because there's that thing where the guys in the truck are talking and a giant lobster claw just sneaks around behind one of them. Such a silly visual. But yeah, they throw down with the lobster and they beat it up.
Yes. It's all, this is fine. As I said, I'm waiting for like a steak or something to get thrown into this to give me a reason why we are spending like a month on this little short story. But I assume that's going to come next chapter, or maybe the chapter afterwards. The Iron family, I think, is involved, which is one of the bigger families. So maybe they'll be like, here's the Iron family rival that Garo will find significant in an arc or two, or something like that.
Yeah. The latest chapter ends with the note, all that's left is to blow the guests away with an Epicurean finale. I wonder if that's actually going to be the finale of this mini arc. Yeah, as you said, like, if we actually just like stopped here, be like, all right, fun little diversion, but it's either got to be that, or we've got to have reason to care more deeply about it beyond. Wasn't this a silly diversion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I had the order wrong, so I was like, Nick, why are you so upset about Akane-banashi? And I was like, never mind, it's supposed to be...
No, I'm not at all! New Exorcist, Chapter 81, Invasion! Alright. We cut over to the level 4 spirits in Gashadokuro and Raisei, who have summoned Gashadokuro, and he's put his hand on Raisei's head, and is like, hey, thanks for breaking me out. And Raisei says, hey, don't worry about it. And then goes, blah! And as he gets messed up by Gashadokuro's power again, who goes, whoops, which I do kind of like.
I do think it's kind of funny that he's like, my bad, didn't mean to rot your lower jaw off.
So Gashadokuro says, hey, this is the burden of that temporary contract. It's bound to happen if you form a contract with two Hyo at once. You may be immortal, but your spirit isn't. You'll be a burned out shell in no time. And Raisei just, struggles through it, kind of reattaches his jaw, I guess. And Gashadokura is like, huh, yeah, you got some spine. He is addressed by, God, I don't even know who this character is, but the one who actually like let him loose, who says, look, I'm interfering with the site you're sealed in. It only lasts 3 days. Once those 3 days pass, your contract with Raisei ends. So Gashadokura is like, all right, what do you guys want from me? And Raisei says like, okay, the Exorcist Bureau is prepared to reseal the Hyo. The extent to which we can wear the Bureau down at this point is going to be key. We want you to lend us your power. And Gashadokura says, all right, what am I? What do I look like to you? And huge pressure comes off of him, which makes everyone there be like, oh, this is bad. And Gashadokura says, like, listen, I'm here now. Yeah, I'm a clone, but you think I'm weak? You think the Exorcist Bureau is that strong? Nah. Follow me. I am Gashadokura, the war god. I'll crush the Exorcist Bureau before you can blink. And Raisei says, yeah, sure, we can word it that way.
Raisei is like, whatever, dog. Doesn't really change any plans, so it's all good to me.
Gashadokura says, all right, good. And he says something that makes me wish that, again, New Exorcist was better, because we pan back and look at them from above, because there's a tiled floor that they're all on, and they all look small on it. He says, place your lives on my game board then. And I went,
why would you not use the metaphor?
Why aren't they drawn as the game board in pieces?
You have a grid-based. You have a grid-based floor. You could have very easily turned these guys to game pieces. Very big missed opportunity.
He says, starting now, your lives are worth as much as mine. We'll achieve the objective without losing a single comrade, guaranteed. Interesting that he's like, I'm the war god and stuff, and he's like, you guys are my companions now, and we're gonna go and win this. Like,
There was a camaraderie amongst the Hyo before that we've seen, or not the Hyo, but the level 4 spirits rather. So, all right.
Yeah.
All right, maybe Foxcloak brings up a point. They're all in intersections, so maybe it's supposed to be Go that they are the pieces for.
It still doesn't look like that, though.
Yeah.
So, he brings up, like, I need a vessel, because I can't just have Raisei like this, because, Raisei's body is falling apart because he's got 2 Hyo with him right now. And Raisei's like, no, I'm fine. And Gashadokura was like, no. You can't actually work with me right now. He says, your life is faint transparent. That's the polar opposite of how I roll. It's just such a weird thing for him to say. But he says, like, look, my main form's still sealed, so I need the most suitable vessel that I can get. And Raisei says, well, there's one place in this era that has humans that can be used as vessels. The Fujino family estate.
Nick! Whoa! What a seamless transition to get us and all the characters to go to the exact same place. Bravo. Oh, I know you were sitting here being like, whatever happened to that level 4 Hyo, dude in the Hyo he summoned? Well, Nick, don't worry, because he's also going to where our characters are. So that's pretty cool.
We could have just handled this after this was done, but whatever. So, Gakuro, meanwhile, is making his way through the sewers to the Fujino estate, passing by a bunch of spirits that are, like, eating rats down there, and his presence is erased by, Tengu, Kurasa Tengu. And Kurasa Tengu's like, yes, I am erasing your presence. Don't you want to compliment me? And Gakuro says, I'll do that when we're home. Okay. He asks, like, what the spirits are doing down here, and Kurasa Tengu says, like, well, they seem to have been unleashed by the Fujino family. They're clearly enemies. Stay on your guard. All the spirits start saying creepy things, including one that says, Shirohashira is lovely. Lively, I guess. And Gakuro turns and looks, doesn't even look disturbed, he just kind of goes, huh? What'd you say? Huh?
Did you talk about my girlfriend? I mean, my friend who happens to be a girl? I mean, ah!
What? Technically, all my friends are my girlfriends, I guess, if you put it that way.
Except for
I thought Rito was my friend, but I think I upset him.
I might have cut his arm off or something. Oops. Do you right? I wonder if there's like a sympathy card that I can give him.
Sorry, I cut your hand off.
Actually, the Exorcist Bureau does carry those. It actually happens fairly frequently.
So because he looked directly into the eyes of one of these spirits, Cross-Tengu has to like up his output in order to really mask Gakuro's presence. It works. The level 4 spirit turns its head all creepily and walks away. And then Cross-Tengu says like, listen, I'm using an enhanced version of my presence erasure. It's only going to last a minute, so run! And so Gakuro just starts running down the sewer corridor. There are, for some reason, a traffic jam of spirits just all crowded down, further down. And Cross-Tengu says like, nope, it's all right. Your presence is erased. Just like push through them like you're in a Halloween festival carnival place. So Gakuro just shoves his way through. Blah! Gets out the other side. I imagine this was supposed to be tense. Doesn't feel like it at all.
No, not even remotely.
And then Gakuro afterwards is like, wow, I'm going to really praise you later, Cross-Tengu. And Cross-Tengu is like, yeah, do that when we get home.
Super cool. I love these characters. Their iconic interactions with one another.
Gakuro comes out of the sewers to a boss fight stage. And
this is one of those rooms where you're like, was there not supposed to be a save point before this? Because this is clearly a boss fight.
The hat dude that was, like mocking Gakuro before is clearly waiting for Gakuro there. And Gakuro is just running across the tank and says like, hey, it's okay. I'll just increase my output for a couple more seconds. So just jump past him and we'll get by. Ah! Gakuro tries to jump past him, and immediately the guy stands up and goes like, hey, why are you guys talking to each other like that for? Like I'm not here. And tries to smash Gakuro with a fist. But, he made the fatal flaw, Quinn. He tried to attack a new Exorcist character from behind, which means the attack was doomed to fail.
That was a flaw on his part. Stupid rookie mistake.
Gakuro blocks the blow with his sword. And Cross-Tengu is like, well, how did he spot us? I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons it could have happened.
Because he's Renji. His spiritual detection levels are pretty high. I assume he's Renji because he seems to have Renji's weapon.
Yeah, he does seem to have a knockoff Zabimaru, but he also has a gauntlet of some kind.
Yeah, it looks like that's a tail, but I don't know.
He says, I've been wanting to thrash you for ages now. And Gakuro looks right back at him and says, I haven't hit you enough yet, either. That's the end of the chat.
Yeah, Gakuro. Gakuro is still learning how to talk trash. He's just like, yeah, and I'll inflict harm upon you as well, perhaps in excess. Friend? Not friend.
Sorry.
Stop apologizing to me. I'm trying to kill you. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was kind of okay with this chapter until Gakuro came back into it because the rest of it is just boring and lame. God, I don't know how to describe. It's so hard to explain sometimes when the series is just boring why it's bad at what it does. There's no tension to this sewer crawl that happens. There's no humor between Gakuro and Cross-Tengu. And then this stupid boy is just like, I'll just clearly jump by this person who was very obviously waiting for me. And then a fight breaks out. And there's not even a cool way it starts off.
It doesn't help that I don't know who this guy is. Like, I know he was there when Rito called the Fujino family to pick her up. I remember that. But this isn't like, Ichigo getting to fight Byakuya or something like that. Like, our showdown will finally occur. I'm like, I don't know. You just punch this guy in the face. He's a nudnik. I don't know who he is. Like, I don't know why we're stopping here. So yeah, I agree. You hit it on the head. Like the rest of this chapter is just kind of boring. Or not the rest of this chapter. This sewer chase is really kind of boring. After the start was at least remotely interesting, and Gashadokuru kind of just being like a blunt war god who's just like, hey, I don't want to. None of you bitches have a vessel good enough for me because you're all sneaky and all that sort of shit. That's not my jam. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Now we're gonna do Akane-banashi, Quinn.
Yeah.
It takes a while for us to actually get to the. It takes a while for us to actually get to the chapter title, which is important. So we'll just hold off until we get there. Start off with all of the apprentices receiving a text message from Shiguma saying, "I will return. Just wait and tighten the loincloth of your heart."
Aw.
But at this moment, of course, the last time we saw all the apprentices, they were gathered together. They made their declaration. We're just all going to do it. We'll come back together after we're all promoted to Shinuchi. And we can see that at this point, all of them are off on their own now.
Yes.
Koguma, we can see that his master's in the background, and that Kyoji is with God. What is? It's not Zencho. It's Zen. Whatever.
I'm
I can't
shocked.
remember
You're trying to remember
guy.
that character's name.
It's Braid guy who got embarrassed during the selection. And speaking of which, Akane is riding in a car with Kaichi, and there's a cute little exchange between them because Kaichi says, "We're here, Ne-san," and she says, "Don't call me that." But it makes sense because she's been in Rakugo longer than he has. So even though he's like 12 years older than her, he's calling her like his big sister apprentice. It's cute.
Yeah.
Akane is met by Kaisei, who says, like, back when we talked to each other, after your big rookie debut, you chose the Shiguma school instead of joining up with me, and it seems that fate had other things in mind. And Akane is like, what, are you, like, resentful of me for that? He said, nah, I just wonder if it'll all work out. Art is everything in the Isho school. Seniority, personality, emotion, all are irrelevant. Only those who stand out via their art are valued, the opposite of the Shiguma school. And Akane is, like, looks away from him and says, I didn't assume all schools were the same. But then she says, hey, I've been confirmed for Futatsume. I'm going to catch up to you in no time. And it's a callback to, Kaisei saying, like, I would have loved to perform at the same event as you when he was ahead of her. And
exactly,
that was impossible. And Akane says, like, this time I will. But Kaisei just kind of smirks and says, you better make it quick. I'm going to be a Shinuchi before you know it. So, nice. Kaisei leads her to a door where, of course, Isho is waiting behind it. Akane respectfully, kneels in front of it and then excuses herself as she comes in. Isho is there waiting for her in proper contemplative villain mode.
Yes. It very much hand stroking the little chin fluff, like, I must be menacing in this moment. One hand inside of his kimono.
Akane starts to apologize for, yelling at him the last time they saw each other in the hospital. But Isho just is like, man, cut the bullshit.
Yeah.
I know that you've come to ask me about Shiguma's art. So Akane says, that is why I'm here. And Isho says, I see. Then you must forget. I forbid you from anything involving Shiguma's art. And Akane is stunned by this, like the color goes out of her eyes, and she starts to object again. And Isho says, in that case, can you do it if I tell you everything I know? Can you master the thing that even that wreck of a man cannot? I didn't realize you thought so highly of yourself. And Akane starts to get her hackles raised. She's starting to rise to the provocation. She's clutching her kimono and grimacing. But she stops herself, and Icho says, "When you are in the care of my school, you will follow my instructions." And he starts to walk out. But as he passes her, Akane says, "Then once I have the skill I need, give me answers about you and Master, about you and the previous Shigema." And Isho clearly was like, What the fuck did you just say?"
Excuse me?
What the fuck? Glares down at her. Akane starts to, fall under the pressure, but she gets up and she says, "I can't back down either. I have to live up to the expectations placed on me. I have to learn how to master this. Shigema's art." And she squares off with Isho. And Isho says, "Very well. Show me what you can do, Akane Arakawa." And Akane accepts the challenge, and we finally get to the chapter title, Story 141, Zenza Training Complete. And then, well, one of us called it, and it wasn't me. We get a time skip, which makes sense. It's 3 years later now. That's not the biggest surprise. Probably a bigger surprise is that, hey, that's the Eiffel Tower. Because for some reason, Akane's in Paris.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked.
And you can tell that she...
carry on.
Oh, you can tell she's in Paris because she's got a baguette.
Yes, yes, that is true. And it says it there. Detective Nick striking again, like, oh, it does say Paris.
And there's the Eiffel Tower in the background. And I believe that might be the Louvre, but I'm uncultured and don't know what the Louvre looks like. There's the Arc de Triomphe over there too.
Yes, from John Wick 4. That's famously where it was invented. I think we're gonna jump forward. I don't know if this is a situation where Akane is just traveling the world to gain more life experience in order to do more of her stories, which I can imagine. I'm curious what this is going to mean, because I would presume in 3 years we would see some level of the instruction that a show would have given to Akane, and also potentially Akane performing at shows with Kaisei and even Kaichi and stuff like that. Like, that's something that would have presumably happened. So I am very curious to see if we're going to get some of that in flashbacks, or if we're just going to be like, we're going to jump right into it, and until it's relevant, you won't know that.
Mm-hmm. Some people point out that this makes Akane among the older protagonists in Shonen Jump now, because she's like 22 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I saw someone that I unfortunately can't give credit to the exact person who suggested this. I think partially as a joke. What if Akane is not there to do anything for Rakugo? She's just attending a sumo competition for the Jumbo-Sin, which, I don't know, like, out of all the things in the world that, that have a likelier chance of being in Paris than Rakugo, sumo seems a little far.
I really do like the idea of
it was cute.
The one French sumo wrestler who's just like, I'm the champ. No one's defeated me. You got to send your best.
Anyone from Japan shows up. No!
Like, shit. I thought you'd at least start with, one of the crappier countries, right? Like, doesn't Brazil have, a sumo team I can face off against first?
Look, I just got done fighting off the Brazilian Yakuza, so...
All right, Nick, we're going to wrap up this week of manga with One Piece chapter 1135, Friends Cups. And in case you were curious, the cover page shows us that Tama just kicks Hold'em right in the face. Fuck this guy. She is, in her words, I'm different now. So we open the chapter, still in the library. Saul explains a little bit about how this library works, and that is the work of Bilbo, the Owl Librarian, Chief Librarian. They can grow to enormous size, anything that is inanimate. And Vegapunk basically is just like Ah, yes, I suspect that they have eaten the grow fruit, so that makes sense. There is a very, very cute moment where Robin is asked if this takes her back, and she's like, yes, it does. And Chopper comes in and is like, I wonder if they have medical books here. And she's like, I mean, I'm sure they do, but most of the stuff here is archaeology and history. So then Sal's like, oh, we have some medical books here in Elbath. And Chopper's all excited. They're like, but they're always big, so you won't be able to read them. Aw.
Ah!
Cut to outside. Luffy is swinging on a swing set with two of the giant boys, and they are not having a good time.
No.
They are not. They are holding on for dear life.
Too high, too high, too high, too high.
Yes. And when they come down, Nami punishes both Usopp and Luffy. I don't even know if Usopp was on board with this.
Usopp's clinging to the horn of one of the kids that's up there.
I don't even know if he wanted to be there, to be honest. But anyway, the Giants comfort themselves with Umagird, and there's a moment where Sanji's just like, why are the children acting this way? And it's because they love boobs as well. They know what they're doing.
I do love the comment that he makes, which is like, is this just a universal trait? And it's like, that's a nice observation.
Yeah. So someone says, I found you, Straw Hat Luffy, and brings down their sword. And it is Callum, the boy from before. He swings his sword at Luffy. Luffy just takes it, and the sword breaks on him, just shatters in half. This is a moment that should be like amazing, but like we know Luffy is so fucking strong now that like even Oda was like, I can't give this like a 1-page spread or anything like that.
It's also obviously a toy sword. You can see the edge is blunted. So.
Yes. But it just shatters. Luffy goes Gear 3 and like fires an attack at this child as Usopp's like, maybe dial it back a little bit, Chief. This is a child.
He came at me. He came at the king and he missed.
Basically, pretty much it's just like, if you don't want one, don't start nothing, all right? This kid's like, oh man, this is so awesome. I could totally tell you're an emperor of the sea. They all call Colin this wild child. They're like, hey, you don't even go to this school. And Ripley shows up and is like, ugh, you're causing trouble there, Colin. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, hey, Mom, here's your favorite. And everyone's like, Mom. And he brings up also, he's like, oh, my dad's a human as well. And Ripley explains, yes, he used to be a pirate. He can even hold his own against Elbath warriors. He's a younger man, actually. And he keeps sulking that he's the only one who ages, and that's why he won't marry me. But I'm like basically his common law wife. A bunch of people noted that they were like, I bet this is going to really upset Quinn, and I don't know how to tell you guys. The hot Viking mommy being an actual mommy did not deter any aspect of what was sexually attractive. If anything, this woman is more attractive now as a result. I don't know what to tell you.
I have to congratulate whoever it was that is this common law husband, because whoever they are punching above their weight. So, yeah.
It's weird because in my mind, I'm like, is it supposed to be like Shanks or a member of his crew? But they said used to be a pirate, so I guess not. But it still has to, I presume we're still going to meet this person at some point. So
it seems like a thread that's going to get pulled at some point. Probably in this arc.
I wonder if it's going to be, oh gosh, what was his name? Gecko Moria. Nick.
Oh
oh my god! Nick, it could be Jin! He used to be a pirate.
It could be Jin. It could be Jin.
I mean, we do know proof that he is still,
be Jin.
He is still out there. We know he was still pirating, but maybe retired very recently.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's like a period of like 1,000 Straw Hats saying different things. Vegapunk is going to ask for permission to do things. Frankie wants to go check out the jewel tree, basically, and handle all that sort of stuff. Umagird stops and like gives the new Straw Hats also Viking clothes so that they fit in with everybody else. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys look so adorable. This is perfect." I'm not a weirdo though, so don't feel bad about the clothing.
She's got a thing of making human clothes. She's like a doll clothing maker kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
but again, not like Roto. She's not a weirdo that we know of.
Well, she didn't kidnap them to put them on.
That is fair. She did ask permission, which seems like should be the bare minimum, but maybe not in this island. We cut over to the Allrust Castle, and the two figures who showed up last week, or last time rather, are talking to these two giants who are basically just like, "Oh, you're looking for a guy named Loki? Oh, well, that guy's a criminal. I don't even know why you'd want to talk to him. He killed our last king, and everyone hates him. Also, no one's in this castle." So they're like, "Okay, then where is he?" They're like, "Well, we can't tell you that." And it's unclear exactly who this person is still at this point. I'm just going to call them presumably Lady Intruder, because they are given like kind of the effeminate way Oda draws women eyes. They do something and it brings one of these giants to their knees. And
it seems like she stomps the ground in a circle.
Something like that, yeah. Something happens to bring this giant to his knees. And they're like, "Hey, fuck you. I asked you a question." Like, I gave you an order, rather. I didn't ask you a question. I gave you an order. Tell me where he is. So we don't get the answer for all of that. She wraps bandages around his limbs. Does she? God, you guys are really good at identifying these things, because you had to zoom in pretty hard to even tell he didn't have those bandages on to begin with.
Yeah, true.
Crazy. Anyway, we go over to the Western Village. This is where the party is happening. There's a big celebration for Luffy and all these guys for interacting. Luffy and Usopp are kind of at the forefront of all of this. They go on to brag about how cool Luffy is, and Nami the entire time is frustrated just hearing about, like, he was the front and center at the Great Wano incident where Kaito and Big Mom fell. And Nami's just like, "God damn it, I always forget how in trouble we are with the world." But there's a lot of celebration, and the chapter ends with the hero of the giants, the oldest giant in the world at age 408, showing up. And it is Beard Hill Jarl, who has a sword in his head, quite literally. He has a giant sword sticking through, and Luffy sees this and says, "Hey, old man, there's a sword stuck in your head." And he says,
Not to worry. The helmet saved my life."
I guess I am remiss by saying there is also closure to the giant who was almost purchased at the Fishman auctions back when we saw that. I didn't even...
God.
I didn't even think to put that guy. I put the guy who joined Law's crew eventually in my list of Nick, can you name this One Piece character? That guy would have been fucking cruel. I can't even imagine who would remember that.
Yeah, it's more stuff building in the early stages of this. There's a few nice little things here and there, but this is a kind of just a standard One Piece chapter at this point. There's nothing that really super stands out to me. Mystery person, I do find them intriguing though. So there's that. And it's a very funny joke with Jarl at the end. Just the sword straight through his head. It's like, "It's all right, the helmet stopped it." No, it didn't.
It went all the way through,
it's still there.
Do you shower with that in? That can't be good.
Yeah. I don't know if this man showers.
It's very true. Nick, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap, but it is the first chapter MVP and character MVP and chapter of the week of the new year. Do you have anything that's calling to you in particular?
There are a couple things that stand out. I think I'm going to make my chapter of the week Akane-banashi. I really love the just going hard on the developments and the confrontation between Akane and Isho, even though she is, now his apprentice, but not backing down. I love that, he tries and is like, "Nope, I'm going to take that away from you." And she doesn't give up on it. And so because he is the way that he is, he's like, all right, fucking prove yourself, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's the note that we leave them on. And then, hey, it definitely seemed like the right place for a time skip when we got to that point in the chapter.
I agree. I also agree. Akane-banashi as chapter of the week. Just a very exciting chapter. A lot happening. I love just how dramatically they were like, Zenza training is over. This is a new part of the story now. We are going to firmly establish that by just skipping forward. So, interesting. Very, very curious.
For MVP, I honestly did actually consider Souffle in Sid Craft, because she's so funny in this chapter, and then at the end she just kicks a dude in the face in a really cool way. But I am going to go with Ichi from Ichi the Witch. Just a really cool moment, even though he fails of suckering in this horribly powerful enemy, stabbing him with a stick, it seems like, to try and take out the carotid artery, and then going crazy, saying like, hey, I want to hunt you. And I feel like Descrust might get a look for MVP next week. She just kind of got to show up in this one, so that's why I gave Ichi the edge over her.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna give mine to Descrust because I thought the part she showed up in was the most exciting moment of the chapter. That was a cool moment for Michi, but I was kind of expecting something along those lines to happen. Whereas in my mind, I guess I just blocked out that Descrust was even involved in all this, and like just hadn't thought like, oh yeah, she could get involved at some point. So I'm super excited to see that. But the audience agreed completely with you for Ichi for character of the week, and Ichi the Witch also won chapter of the week as well. So big week for Ichi.
Descrust is everyone's favorite uber talented badass. So
she is.
She got that right. Well, that's going to do it, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for this 2025 edition of Weekly Manga Recap. We'll have another one next week. We'll be recording the show right here on twitch.tv/RoloT right around 7:30 Eastern Time. Watch out for that. Also, follow us on social media. We're on BlueSky now, RoloT, Nick F Time, Weekly Manga Recap, and join the Discord server as well. It'll be linked wherever this gets posted, and there will be an announcement when the show goes live. We want to also point out that you can listen to previous episodes of the show on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, on iTunes, on Spotify, podcast feed type places like that. The video version gets posted on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap and features an opening sequence by Milo Jack Stillitz and Wensleydale Cheddar. The Weekly Manga Recap Google Doc will be linked in the Discord. You can go on there, check out prior series that we have covered, MVP voting, and there is also a breakdown of all of the superlative awards that happened as well. Speaking of which, WMR votes on BlueSky. Follow that account as well.
Yes.
NinjaX3i maintains a lot of the stuff on the Google Doc that helps us to keep track of things that we've talked about in this very long-running show that I would have forgotten about otherwise. So thank you for that help. And we also occasionally get title cards done by Steve Man, whose artwork can be found all across the interwebs if you just search for Steve Man art.
Yes.
And that's about gonna do it.
Well, I have a new recommendation to pick, Nick.
I was waiting for that. Okay.
And, I could have just picked one. But instead, I picked 5. And Nick, they're going to go from a scale. From 1 being the most sensible to 5 being the craziest. All these are a little bit wild. I want you to pick one of these 5. And
don't do this to me.
No, I'm giving you a choice. I'm letting you help guide me on this. So 1, on a scale from 1 to 5, the higher the number gets, they get more intense, I will say. So,
well, then people are just going to be disappointed if I don't pick 5, Quinn.
You don't have to pick 5. You can pick any of these. I'm probably going to do all of these during this year.
Oh, fine. Do you just want me to pick a random number?
Just pick any one. It's
well,
not.
You can't
it's
do
not,
that to me either, Quinn.
It's not random. To be clear, there is a scale to this. As you pick, as the higher the number gets, this is kind of like a choose your own adventure. Like, how intense do you want the difficulty of the next couple weeks to be?
2.
2? All right. So next week, or not next week, gosh, it's going to take us longer for that. Next time, we are going to be talking about the saucy gambling manga. That's right, Gamblefish.
Oh. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Okay. Just to be clear, that was only 2 on this scale, so it gets real wild the further in we get.
Okay. Look forward to that, everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.